Okay, I have two after. We'll go ahead and get started so we can make sure we stay on time. Good morning and good early morning for our West Coast people. My name is Jonathan Wright. I am the Director of Sales and Consultative Services for Leverage Payment Solutions. And today on our Learning with Leverage, we're going to be talking about rewards. And I wanted to go ahead and just give everybody an introduction. So we have Stephanie Hangy here and Siddharth Kapoor from the consulting team that, they're going to be here presenting with me. And we also have Greg Traskow from Breakaway. He has over 20 years of experience in the IT industry, specializing in the areas of marketing, sales, consulting, and computer solutions. I apologize for the dogs, guys. Combined with over 20 years in the industry, developing and marketing points based on card loyalty, primarily in the financial institution industry. His experience with several loyalty rewards, companies secure major credit card or reward programs, and with leading FIs such as Canvas CU, United FCU, Vantage West, Wright Pratt, Star One, Desert First, and Technology. He's going to be our guest panelist and speaker. He'll be there to answer any questions that you guys have. And I want to keep this as casual as we can. I don't want to just speak and have everyone listen because everyone here does know how to read. So the more interactive, the better. So I want you guys to stop, raise your hands, ask questions, get involved. We're doing this for you guys. So this is for you. We want you to get involved with the conversation that we're having. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and make sure everyone can see what I have. Can everyone see my screen?
Good.
So today's presentation is unlocking the power of rewards and the importance and the influence of credit and debit rewards. Again, here's the crew that's going to be presenting today and our guest speaker, Greg. So when we talk about the growing loyalty in the US and Canada, so when you're looking at that global market, loyalty programs are expected to reach $1/5 trillion by the end of 2022. That is insane to think about from a money standpoint of just how big rewards are. And when we talk about the future, and when I say the war on rewards, you're going to see exactly why this is going to be so important. 79% of consumers today say that loyalty programs make them more likely to do business with you. I'd love to see a share of hands of how many in the audience have some sort of a rewards card in their wallet or a rewards program in their wallet, a Starbucks card or anything of the such. I'll bet you everyone raises their hands. This is something, just two participants, fantastic. So people are listening, that's great. It's one of those things that we have in our wallets. This is something that we do. And a third of the pioneers, the risk takers, the tech savvy, the people, the Gen Zs that are hungry for the technology, they switched their FI in the last year because of a rewards program. People expect those rewards. They want to see what is in it for me, and they won't consider something unless it's has some sort of a reward with it. Now, when we talk about this reward war, it's all in the surveys. And you look out there, the only one that made the list from a credit union standpoint was USAA. And they're up at the top of the list, believe it or not. But when they talk about this the credit card satisfaction index, this is their satisfaction is all pinned on the reward program that it comes with it. And the amount of money that these organizations spend on this is insane. So when we look at these issuers, look at the issuers. Who are they? They're almost all banks, and they're all spending this money. You have Navy Fed in here, USAA, because they are large organizations. but they are the ones spending the gross majority. Look at that. Chase has got almost a quarter of this. Chase,
why do you think that is? Why are they doing that, Jonathan?
they want the money. That's why they're the
No, because there's the opportunity, right?
there's money to be made. And
Yeah.
how many of you guys get those flyers in the mail all the time? New rewards card, new card, new card. We get these rewards and they're spending the money, and they're spending the money because they know there's an ROI. How
Right,
do
Greg?
I'm sorry?
I was saying, right, Greg Tresca?
How do you guys compete with this? How do you compete with the fact that almost a half of the money is spent with the top two? That's a crazy thing to think about. This isn't billions. That's in billions. It's $250 billion. Absolutely insane. They're spending this money, and we need to make sure you guys are armed to compete. So when we look at these changes in rewards, they're being driven by technology. Single sign-on. This is a huge point. Everybody wants it. They want it now, and they want it easy. Amazon has done this for us. When's the last time you got on your Amazon account and it was down, or it didn't work properly, or everything wasn't at your fingertips? They have set that bar so high, and they want to make sure that they have access to it. Every time you use your Apple Pay, what are they doing when they're advertising? They want you to use their Apple credit card. Why? Because they want the interchange. That's the reason that we're all here. They want to be able to offer the points. What about redeeming these points as far as at the point of sale? Have you guys seen that new piece of technology? As far as just using your points, point of sale, to buy a product, pay with points is what they call it. This is all new technology. What are they doing? They're removing barriers. They're making it easy for people to do business with them. And that's why the banks have that lion's share of those balances, because they're the ones spending the money and offering the rewards in order to do business with them. So when we look at new consumers and what's driving their business, personalized advice is at the bottom. And I wanted this slide in here because as credit unions, and when I worked at the credit union, and Stephanie, I know you'll back me up on this, service is the name of the game. You can go anywhere and get products, but you come to me because you want service. You come to me for personalized advice. That's what we do at credit unions. We offer the best of everything, the lowest rates, the best advice, something that's personalized, something that's going to help our members. That's the reason why we do this. We want to help our members, and we want our members to succeed, because that creates the loyalty. And that was the least most important thing to consumers when they're getting a credit card today. Let that sink in for a second. That is,
I'd like to hear, from Greg's perspective, as a loyalty expert and rewards expert with, decades of experience. Greg, what do you think is driving consumers from your perspective, from all you've seen? Greg, I don't know if you're on mute.
I think he might be.
Doggone. Let's see. Are all the panelists muted, Jonathan? Are all the attendees muted?
Oops. I don't believe so. Oops.
How about somebody else being brave and trying talking so we know? Well, we can go on and, hopefully Jonathan, maybe if he can get back to the presentation, then I can speak a little bit more about what's driving consumers. I worked at a credit union for 10 years, so I've walked in your shoes. I've worked with those members, understand that service excellence standard that members expect from credit unions, that high level, and that's what credit unions expect from their vendors as well. So when you look at, rewards and engaging members, the future of your credit union is in younger members, and you need to attract those. So I want to look at a couple things here on this slide. First of all, the image on the left, 58%. This was a survey, ION payment study, And 58% of the respondents said that rewards were very important to credit union members. And I want you to remember that number, 58%, because when I first saw it, I thought, well, that is low because we know rewards are important. And in a couple slides, I'm going to tie into this. So remember, 58%. So when you look and see of those 58% that said rewards were important, where were they getting their rewards? 51% are getting it from a credit card, because that's been the traditional rewards environment since 2010, when legislation effectively sunset nearly every debit rewards program. I worked at a credit union at that time, and we sunset the debit rewards program because of the concern of profitability. But through the years, debit has become more important than ever. And the pandemic really led to that shift in behavior from cash and checks to debit. So when you look at the graph on the left that's showing only 9% were maybe getting debit card rewards and 19% were getting both debit and credit, you have to compare it to the image on the right, which is a Visa graph showing from Q3 of 2020, when the pandemic was really beginning, and through the few years after that, the increase in transaction volume and payment volume. And that was because consumers weren't using cash and checks as much. They were migrating to another payment option, and debit became the preferred payment method even more, especially because of a younger demographic working into that. So what we've seen, though, is debit rewards are coming back because there is such an opportunity. And consumers want the same benefit in a debit card as they do in a credit card. I mean, it's a piece of plastic. It looks the same. The functionality is the same. I can embed it in a mobile wallet. I can use it online. I can use it in a storefront. But I want rewards if I'm a younger person specifically, because as Jonathan said earlier, rewards are ubiquitous. Everybody's got lots of loyalty programs, whether it's Starbucks or your gas station rewards or Bath and Body Works. I mean, every store seems to have a reward. Oh, good. I see Greg is maybe showing up there, hoping that we can get him unmuted here in a second. I think Jonathan's got the power in his hands to do so.
Yeah, I just found it. I apologize.
Okay, thank you. So let's get Greg unmuted if you can. I see he's still muted. So you're getting there, Jonathan. But when I say consumers want the same benefits from credit and debit, they want safety, because we all want to use our cards in a safe environment. And as an issuer, we don't want to be incurring losses because of card compromises or someone spoofing a member. But they want safety, flexibility of use, and they want rewards, along with being able to get some cash out of an ATM. So if you've not been offering rewards on credit, you definitely need to think about that opportunity, because Jonathan mentioned interchange in one of his slides. And if you're not aware, if a credit bin that does not offer rewards earns a lower interchange revenue than a credit bin that offers rewards. So you're going to earn more money, you're going to have higher transactions, and you're going to have more satisfied cardholders. And the same with debit. You're going to get more transactions, and that's what you need to look forward to as you were thinking of growing your credit union. So Greg, good morning. I see you are now off mute. And, I would love to hear your thoughts maybe on debit rewards, since I think we are seeing that coming back a little bit more.
Okay, thank you. It's hard for me to be muted that long, by the way.
I've known Greg Tresca since I think 2006. And when he wasn't chiming in, I thought there is something wrong.
I thought I was going crazy. I'm like hitting all these buttons on my screen, and then I realized Jonathan is the guy in control. So good morning, everyone. Thanks for being on the call. A couple of points. Going back to some of the things Jonathan said, in my experience, some 20 plus years calling on credit unions for rewards, the positioning is to think about is obviously you're competing against these large national issuers, right? The Wells Fargos and the US Bank and the Chase and Citi. So when you talk about rewards as a key element, what's important is to have a good mix of rewards to compete with them. And I know over the years, a lot of credit unions I talked to were trying to chase cash back only. And there's a growing trend where a lot of the credit unions I'm talking to now who have cashback only are realizing that that's an expensive proposition. And really your model isn't to chase those national issuers like Citi and Chase and Cap One and Discover with these cashback only programs. Because financially it just doesn't make sense for the credit union. So, how do you tackle that? Well, a couple of things as Stephanie has here. If you're not over, 10 billion, which there's not too many credit unions that are of that size, then really the interchange on debit doesn't come into play for you as far as the reduced interchange that you can make on debit. But we always encourage our, prospect and client credit unions to look at a combined reward solution, which is different than most of the national card issuers can provide, right? Because they're only focused on credit cards, let's say, for example. But when you talk about, creating a mix of debit and credit rewards that you can household, now your members have an opportunity to earn more points quicker. And the cost per point kind of equation is a little different for debit like credit, where it's typically, $1, 1 point for every dollar in spend. That doesn't have to be with debit. But the ability to offer that at the end of the day, whether your member is using debit or credit, the key is that the front of wallet card has to be your credit union card. So how do you accomplish that? Then you combine that with other householding opportunities like points for car loans or, home equity line of credit or home equity loans and things like that. Now you've got a unique differentiator by, almost by definition, your member focus allows you to be able to do things that the large national issuers can't. And pretty much all the rewards programs today have the ability to do all those offerings like the large national issuers are. And I would submit to you, and I say this in my presentations when I meet with credit unions, if your frontline employees, be it the branch manager, the teller, the business development people, ask every member when they walked in, what credit card are you using? You'd probably get a lot of different answers compared to your card. And the next question is, why is that? And they may say, well, because they have really good travel offering, or they have really good cash back. And the response for your frontline people should be, well, if we had all of that, then you'd probably use our card instead of that national issuer card. And that's really the goal when you're starting to talk about rewards. Pardon me. Everybody, it's almost like a given. It's I call it table stakes. You have to have rewards really to be competitive. And to say rewards doesn't make sense really is difficult. You're already at a disadvantage because, as the statistics showed earlier, people gravitate toward card rewards because of the points that they can accumulate.
And an important point there, guys, is it's, as Greg was saying, they're doing that for the rewards. They're not doing it for the rate. Everybody knows that almost every credit union that's on this call has the best rates in town. So if it was about rate, you would have everybody's business, and we don't, because it's about the rewards and it's not about the rates. A very fun statistic that we had at Fiserv when I worked there for all of their debit clients on rewards, which was over 1,000 clients nationwide, is they had a 22% increase in transactions over their peers that did not have debit rewards, because they're top of wallet. That's who they're going to use. My wife and I both bank at a credit union, and we pool our points because we get points on debit, and her family's Greek. So there's big family. And every year we pool our points to go buy Amazon gift cards for all the nieces and nephews for stocking stuffers, because those are the points that we're using, and people want that free stuff, so to speak. And
I got a great slide for that, Jonathan. Thanks for that segue. I'm going to get there. You and Greg, I think you were reading my mind. But Greg, I want to ask you real quick. So, credit cards are generally 1 point for every dollar, unless you have a Visa signature card or you have a richer rewards program. You can do more than 1 point for every dollar. But if an issuer is looking at maybe getting into a debit card rewards program for the first time, or maybe thinking about getting back into a debit card rewards program, what are some of the ratios you're seeing now? I know I had a card that was 1 point for every $3 before 2010 legislation, and now I have a community bank card that's 1 point for every $5.
Wow.
I know. So, it's not a lot, but it is satisfying when you see, oh, I do get something on a debit program. So Greg, I'm wondering what your recommendation in the industry is, or what you're seeing.
Typically, I'd say on average, it's either, 1 point for every $3 in spend or $4 in spend.
Okay,
I
great.
think a lot of, financial institutions who are under 10 billion, who are trying to get to 1 point for every $5 in spend, that's a little bit more of a knee-jerk reaction, to thinking they can't make that up on debit interchange. At the end of the day, there's kind of a built-in control with debit, right? Because it's driven by how much your member has in their account that they can spend off of debit. The way I like to explain that is let credit be the driver, but let debit be that also valuable way to earn points if they don't want to use credit, right? And
Yeah,
and
they don't want that
so-
risk of debt.
I would say, $1 for $3 or a point for $3 or $4 in spend. That's a program that most credit unions can live with from a financial standpoint. And,
Great.
we've got pro formas out there that can drive that. And the beauty part is, as you go along, you could always make that change, so.
Have the
So,
flexibility.
But,
Right.
but as a blended program, that makes sense.
Yeah,
So one more point before we move on. I think, Jonathan, you might have mentioned, or no, Greg did, really having rewards is pretty much table stakes. If you're going to have a credit card program, obviously you're going to issue a card. You really need to be in a mobile wallet. Of course, you're going to have EMV, and you need to have rewards. And I know that a recent Visa statistic is less than 10% of credit card spend is on a non-rewards card. So 90% of credit card spend goes on a card with rewards. So if you're not offering rewards, that may be limiting you. All right.
Well, and one other point, a good program for rewards, you should have a merchant funded component. I know in my case, I happen to have a Bank of America card. Sorry. I have a credit union card too, but when I look at how much Bank of America has spent trying to market merchant funded rewards and card linked offers through Cardlytics here I'm in Atlanta. The amount of money they've spent, I'm not sure they get the payback, but the beauty part of merchant funded, as you all know, if you have those in your program today, or you've looked at that, is you don't have any liability for those points. It's like they say, it's merchant funded, it's card linked offers. So, the technology is such now, as Jonathan said, not only with pay with points at the point of sale, but the merchant funded component allows you to offer some of these points and really at no cost to the credit union to be able to do that. So
that's
there are ways within the mix of a rewards program to mitigate the cost, but still offer a very robust program. So again, if a member walks in and said, I use Bank of America because I get these merchant funded points, triple and double points. Say again, if we had that, then you would probably use our card. So
great. And this, moving on, more just for what the opportunity is. This is a mid-year study that Nielsen Reports sent out last year, just on the debit and credit card spend worldwide between MasterCard and Visa, American Express, and Discover. And obviously, Visa debit is leading. Visa credit is behind in number 2, and then MasterCard debit. So when you look at both MasterCard and Visa debit, debit is where the spend is. It's your opportunity to engage with your current members. It's your opportunity to engage and acquire new members. And that's the future of your credit union. And I really think that, at this point, you kind of need to look at where debit spend volume is and think, why don't I offer rewards on the highest transaction method that a member has, my opportunity to engage with that member the most, to make them happy, to engage with them for other products and services. So this is really just about the opportunity you might have before we move on to the next slide. All right, so when we're looking at rewards cards held by members, and this is a Ascent survey of 2,000 adults, and what they have. Cashback has always been popular, and Greg mentioned, cashback is king. Cashback at 100% redemption rate is very expensive, but you can, do that other ways. But cashback can be a gift card. Cashback can be part of a contribution that I can make that's important to me. We know that the younger demographic likes to interact with businesses that are conscious of giving in their community. So when you have a rewards program that allows your cardholders to make redemptions for charitable giving, that's very satisfying. And very engaging. And so you can see through each of the generations how they feel about cashback, no rewards, low interest. And as Jonathan said, if our credit union rates were so great and that was the best thing about it, then people would be beating down credit union doors to get that 7.99 rate or 9.99 or anything you have less than 15%, because the average credit card APR is 15% or a little above. So why aren't you getting those balances at your credit union? Well, because you don't have the one thing they really want, which is rewards. And that is the most important part of it. We lead with rate, and you need to lead with rewards. So hopefully you're all going out there looking at your websites to see what bullets first, because I'm sure it's low fixed rate or non-variable rate. So it's important to think about what those members want, what those prospective members want, because consumers demand choice and variety when it comes to making payments. And they also want their rewards to be frictionless, as Jonathan said, the technology.
Actually, the average rate now is over 20%.
Okay.
Over 20%.
So a couple things on that. This is we have a lending council meeting in 2 weeks. We can talk more about that and the opportunity you might have. But Greg, I didn't know if you have any thoughts about engaging members and the different kinds of rewards, specifically from a generation perspective.
Well, this is let me caveat, this is my own personal opinion. When I see these percentages on Generation Z with low interest, that I feel like they're still using their parents' credit card, that they don't care about the interest rate, that's kind of a low engagement, the same way with air travel. And I think part of their low air travel is because, you have to acquire a lot of points and spend in order to get to a level to redeem an airline ticket. What's interesting with rewards is that airlines and travel still are a huge component, because at the end of the day, that's the highest aspirational value, right? Is airline tickets, rental car, hotels, cruises. If you could use points to pay for that, as opposed to real cash out of your pocket, some people, we see two kind of people in the rewards program: those that are aspirational, that are saving up for the big airline ticket trip, or they're redeeming every time they get a level for a gift card or cash back.
Right.
And again, the cash back thing, Stephanie brought up a good point here. There's a lot of ways to go after cash back, and some of you may have this already, but the traditional, a lot of people in the loyalty space still say, okay, we put cash back to your, to your credit card statement. The problem with that is, if you think about it, if you're a financial CFO person, now that's potentially impacting the revolving interest you can make, because you're always hitting that, the adding cash back to that. A lot more credit unions are now offering their members the ability to put that cash in a savings account in cash back. And so they're driving kind of fiscal responsibility by putting it in a savings account, or they're putting it back in a checking account. And the traditional statement credit is farther down the list now, because it doesn't impact that revolving interest income as much. And you can make the case that, putting it in a money market or savings or one of those makes more, fiscally responsible approach. So there's a lot of ways to do cash back that, again, the large issuers, they're just putting those cash backs right to the statement. You have the ability to be able to influence your members on where that cash back goes and make it beneficial to the credit union as well.
You're effectively lowering margins by doing that, but if you're putting it back into the checking account where they can turn around and spend that money, like, oh, I got it's extra money, go spend it, and then you're generating the interchange that goes with it.
Yeah,
Exactly.
great point, Jonathan. During my time working at a credit union, we would advise our members, hey, redeem your points, get some cash back, and, pay that, on your credit card or whatever, and then just buy the ticket with the money that we just gave you from your cash back because you're going to earn more points. And they would look at us and they're like, oh yeah, great idea. I like that. So it was very satisfying. Good point, Greg. All right, move on. I've got one more slide to talk about in terms of that member engagement and really kind of acquiring members as well. So I saw this graph on the left. How do you plan to pay for your holiday gifts this year? And this was a study from last year, the holiday gifting report. There are so many types of these reports out there. And if you ever need help with these kind of information, our consulting team, we've got our fingertips on them all. But I thought this was interesting because it really focused on the younger generation and how they were going to pay for holiday. So 43% were going to use a card. Obviously, we've got some Venmo, mobile wallets. So you need to be tokenized. So if none of you are tokenized, make sure you reach out to us so that we can help you with that. But what I thought was really interesting is 33% were going to use their loyalty points to pay for holidays. And I think that's what I heard Jonathan saying a little bit ago is they share points and then they go buy gift cards. And, that's an important part. So being able to redeem rewards points to either get an item, a physical toaster, AirPods or whatever it might be out there that they want to give for gifts is how the younger generation was planning to pay for holiday last year. So when you think about your members and their behavior, I wanted to talk about the average credit union member age. And it was funny. I kind of cracked myself up yesterday. I was looking to find out what that new number is, and the average credit union member is 53. And when I was Googling it, one of the first links that came up was a CU Insight article from 2018. And I wrote it. I'm like, oh my gosh, I forgot I wrote this article. And then so I laughed about that, but then it got even funnier because not really funny, but as I read the article, I reminded myself about the article I wrote in 2018. The average credit union member age was 47. So it's 5 years ago.
Let that sink in a little bit for a second.
So the average credit union member age has not gone down, it's gone up. So that's not that's not really where you want that number to be. You want that number to be going down. You need to acquire and attract those younger members who are the future of your credit union. And you're going to do that through the products and services that they're looking for. So I really have to think about, do I have my best offering in my credit and debit card programs? How am I marketing to get to a younger demographic? Obviously, technology is very important, mobile capabilities, frictionless interactions, high quality service. Credit unions, they already do that, but it's really those other wow factors such as rewards that I can do cool things with, that I can maybe make a charitable contribution somewhere because I like that as a younger age group. You really have to think about that. So my first slide, my first slide had a percentage on there that said 58% of respondents to the ION payment study found rewards important because they were surveying current credit union members and the average age of them is 53. So rewards might not be as important to someone who's 53. And that's why I was confused why that number. I don't know, Jonathan, if you could go back to that first slide. One more. There you go. This one. So when you look at this and it says only 58% of the respondents thought rewards were important, it might be because they weren't surveying the younger demographic. They were surveying an older demographic who was about 53 or older. So, and you can go back, Jonathan, thank you for so much. When you think about the future of your credit union and engaging that younger demographic, rewards is really an important component of that as well. So I don't know, Greg, if you have any stats or thoughts on engaging with younger members or prospective members or strategies for that.
It's funny, I think if you did the survey probably a year or two ago, cryptocurrency would probably be higher, but I think there's a little, and we looked at crypto as a reward solution, and we actually came out with a fairly straightforward approach. We actually have in our rewards catalog, believe it or not, it's an actual gift card, because when you start talking about crypto and having to have a wallet for crypto and you have to go through an exchange, we just found that, we have a denominated crypto gift card that those people who are savvy enough, who understand crypto and want to trade in that and play in that, they can redeem their points for a denominated bit card, what's called a bit card in our case, and they can use that to redeem for Bitcoin, because they probably already have a wallet. But as Stephanie said, you want to have things out there that are interesting to them, that makes sense. So whether that's, social things that they can donate their points to, or causes, or different charities, or, this engagement, I think that as you guys will see going forward, this point of sale redemption is going to be a key engager. And it's interesting, at the end of the day, yes, a lot of people have rewards on their card, but it gets down to what kind of things are you doing to engage your members to use their cards, be it campaigns or, stimulator programs to get double or triple points. We found that giving points really doesn't cost the credit union anything until they get redeemed. But if you're watching their program, you can manage the cost of that program by adjusting the cost per point and the impact to the financial institution. But I think that this is a good slide, because if you have all the ability to offer all of those pieces and parts within your program, I think it is a way to appeal to the younger folks and the younger generations. And I'm sure that we're preaching to the choir here. I'm sure within credit unions, you guys are probably wrestling with this all the time, because I think everybody's trying to figure out how to get to that, the Gen Zs of the world and get them engaged to be a credit union member, and to understand the benefits of that. That's probably, we don't need to spend time on that, because that's probably something you spend a lot of time during your weeks and months trying to wrestle with,
All right, thank you, Greg. And to wrap things up, we're going to have Siddharth here finish up the show. So Siddharth,
Thank you,
Jonathan. Great, fantastic.
Thank you, Jonathan. I wanted to, before I get into this slide, I wanted to circle back to what we were just talking about. So I'm in the millennial category, and personal experience, we talked about top of wallet. So the way that I look at my spending is I see, which credit card is going to give me the most cash back or the most points, where I can redeem it to either pay my next bill or purchase something else. So I think that's very important to keep in mind as we look at trying to get younger as an industry, get more younger members involved, just to kind of get into their mindset to say, hey, will this young member use my card? Why will they use it? Kind of give them an incentive to use that card. But we can go to the next slide. So the time to start looking at implementation is now. As you'll see with this graph, the 3 biggest spending events in the US are back to college, the winter holidays or holiday shopping, and back to school. The next 2 categories, Mother's Day and Easter, don't even come close to some of those other spending categories. So the perfect time that is to be prepped for Q3 and Q4, which is coming up, to give reason for your members to use the card. And we can go to the next slide. Not everybody has to deal with back to school shopping. So I wanted to find a graphic that just focused solely on holiday spend. And as you'll notice, most people do a bulk of their shopping from October to December. So this is something to keep in mind as far as discussions for implementation goes, that there's still plenty of time for this shopping season in 2023 and beyond to implement rewards.
Siddharth, why do you think there was such a big change in 22 to 21 over the holidays? Looks like, well, I mean, the beginning.
Supply chain.
Yeah,
I think people-
I would say that. And then another thing is it could be, supply chain due to COVID. And then some people, just because of the job market, not spending as much. But I think that it'll start picking up again based on some of the research that I've been doing. And people are always, going to give gifts, and they're always going to shop heavily during the winter time. So that's something to keep in mind as we move forward and get closer to that quarter.
I'm curious if the group that are attending the credit unions, do you see these similar trends in interchange spend or spend in general at the credit unions? Because that's fascinating that half the money where it gets spent. Okay. So I can make a copy of this available to everybody that attended. I can email it out directly, I think. We are at the end of our presentation per se, but wanted to see if there was any questions from the group, since you guys have all the SHMEs here that you would like to answer. So if you would just kind of raise your hands, or I can just allow everyone to talk. And
Did you have any, I was just checking in to see if Greg had any insights on those last couple of slides, because I thought, I was aware back to school was an important spend time, but to see it broke down between back to college and back to school, that was really surprising to me. And just that opportunity to promote rewards during that high spend time is important, as well as the redemption that hopefully you'll get after you spend the money.
Well, we see similar trending in terms of spend cycles, and when our credit unions do, multiple point promotion opportunities, which center around back to school, pre-holiday spend. So, those kind of track in terms of where they're at. I do want to go back to the fact that, when part of the thing that makes rewards muddle between the big issuers and, rewards programs from credit unions is a lot of people feel like they're all kind of the same, right? So how do you differentiate yourself? And not only is it the rewards thing, but it's the ability to engage your members, right? And we've been very successful working with credit unions with doing some promotions that are really tied to the millennials and the younger generation of people, where we've had credit unions do, 3, 4, 5 time points offered for, having the card and spending on Uber or on Lyft or on Uber Eats, which, millennials are very engaged with. And you all know, once you get that card in that front position for Uber, Lyft, Uber Eats, Grubhub, when's the last time anybody changed out their card to another card? So when you start looking at how do we get them to put our card in the front of wallet, a lot of times it gets down to how do we market that? How do we, engage our members in a cost-effective manner to get that card as front of wallet, which is what we spend a lot of time on. So I think while there's, the spending cycles there's this recurring bill pay that really is kind of the unfound boon of opportunity for credit unions with their members for card spend, be it credit or debit. So that's kind of my 2 cents on that whole spending approach.
Okay. Thank you. Do we have any questions from the team? Everyone's been unmuted, so you can unmute yourself and ask the group since you're all here. Sure, everyone doesn't want to be shy.
I was just wondering if there was anything specific that an attendee joined the webinar for, and if it wasn't covered, if there was some
Great question.
piece of information. Everybody's gonna be quiet.
Oh,
I guess we did our job.
perfectly, apparently.
Oh, great.
All right, everyone is unmuted, just verifying.
Well, Greg, good talking to you this morning.
Yes, thank you for coming in. And I apologize again for the technical snafu that
I
my
thought you were doing that on purpose, just so. I
no, my
could
first
type
Zoom
in.
posting, I didn't realize everyone was muted. I had to figure that out. So, and there's no way to really practice it until I logged in. So it just because of situation arose, but I do apologize for that, sir. But thank you again so much for being on the call and answering those questions. I appreciate it. I know the group appreciates it because I know how busy you are. So thank you.
All righty.
All righty. Well, guys, looks like we have about 12 minutes back to your day for lunchtime. So thank you all again. Greatly appreciate everyone coming, and we'll get a copy of this presentation out to everybody that signed up.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Have a great
Thanks,
day.
guys.
Thank you.